Hey guys! Tonight's story takes us into the fog-slicked alleys and soot-streaked rooftops of 1860s London, where you've just become the newest apprentice in one of the most punishing, peculiar trades the city ever scraped together: chimney sweeping. It's early spring, the kind that feels more like late winter. You can hear the drip of rain from the slates overhead, the thud of horse hooves in the muck outside, and the quiet hush of a world not quite awake. It's the kind of morning that feels sticky with yesterday's smoke. So if you're settling in, dim the lights a little, maybe let the background hum of the city fade out for a while, and let's step back into a time of soot and, well, more soot. And if these stories help you rest or wander gently off to sleep, feel free to like the video or subscribe. It helps me keep telling them. Alright, take a breath. This one isn't a tale of kings or queens. It's about the tiny bodies that got jammed up chimneys and the long black days they didn't always come back from. So let's ease into it together. You've just woken up in a cramped, blackened room behind a butcher's shop in Whitechapel. You're maybe 10 years old, small for your age. Not that it matters. Small is the only thing that matters in your new line of work. The room doesn't have windows. The air's thick with damp wool and stale grease. You slept on a pile of sacks, your knees curled up to your chest, and you wake to the scrape of boots and the smell of onions frying in the butcher's pan downstairs. There's a box of soot-stiff clothes by your feet. You can feel the weight of your limbs before you even move them. Everything hurts from yesterday. Elbows, ankles, ribs. The crawl spaces weren't kind, and the bruises under your shirt prove it. You dress quickly, shirt that smells of coal and a cap that doesn't quite fit. There's no time for breakfast. Not unless you count the crust you tucked under your sleeve last night, already soft with sweat. The master, Mr. Hobb, is downstairs shouting at one of the boys to fetch the brushes. You haven't learnt their names yet. They move fast and don't say much. The rule's simple. If you can talk, you can sweep. And if you can sweep, you can bleed. You chew the bread idly and rub a smear of soot off your cheek with a finger that just makes it worse. Somewhere in your chest, your lungs ache. There's a cough that hasn't left you since you started. Outside, the street is waking up with that strange, sleepy bustle London does best. Carts rattle, rain falls in fine drizzles. You pull your collar up and follow the others through the mud. There are 6 of you today. Mr. Mr. Hobb leads the way with a walking stick that's more for threatening than leaning. The older boys carry the longer rods. You've only got the scraper and a small bag of rags. It's your 3rd week. Your job is simple. Go up, brush down, come out, repeat. The soot will fall below to be scooped out and bagged, later sold to brickmakers or gardeners who swear by its richness. London runs on soot as much as coal. The first house is in Spitalfields. Narrow chimney, 6 turns, and a bend halfway up that pinches tight enough to trap a rat. Hobb tells you you're small enough for this one, pats your back like it's encouragement. You climb up the hearth, hands and knees already black from the last job, and slide into the flue. It's warm in here. It smells like scorched meat and wet stone. You breathe through your teeth, trying not to gag. The walls close around you quickly. You can't sit up, can't stretch, the soot sticks to everything, your lips, your eyelids, your tongue. It crunches between your teeth if you breathe wrong. You inch forward, pulling yourself by elbows, pushing with your toes. Each movement grinds your knees against stone. The light disappears behind you, and in front it's all shadow, and brick and silence. You hear your breath more than feel it. In the tighter spots, your ribs scrape both sides of the flue. You start coughing. A thin, reedy wheeze that rattles down the pipe like a whisper. Somewhere far below, Mr. Hobb shouts for you to hurry. He's got another chimney to do by noon. You reach the bend and feel your shoulder snag. You twist. A few flakes of soot fall past your eyes. You blink and press on. If you stop now, someone else has to come get you. And they won't be gentle about it. Every chimney has stories. The one about the boy who got stuck and couldn't breathe for 3 hours. The one who panicked and kicked so he hit the car hard the whole flue cracked open. The one who went up and didn't come down. You're not going to be that one. Not today. When you reach the top, there's daylight. Or something like it. Just a paler kind of grey. You push the brush through, feel it scrape the upper rim of the chimney pot, then begin the long, slow scoot back down. You slide too fast in one place and skin your ankle. Doesn't bleed, not right away. When you emerge, you're coughing so hard your arms shake. Mr. Hobb throws you a rag and tells you to wipe your nose. It comes away black. You don't remember what your snot used to look like before soot. The others are already packing up. You trail behind, your chest still rattling. It doesn't take much to fall behind. There's another house waiting, a bigger flue. This time they send someone else up. You're told to stand watch. You sit on the cold hearthstone, hugging your knees, listening to the scraping and coughing above you. You don't say much, none of you do. You're all too tired, too hoarse, too used to it. The only sound is the rustle of the soot sack and the clink of tools in a canvas bag. Somewhere nearby, someone's baking bread. The smell curls through the window like a cruel joke. You haven't had real bread in weeks. Lunch is a lie. You eat when there's time, and there's never time. Mr. Hobb buys a heel of cheese and slices it into bits like he's quartering gold. You get a crumb, a sip of something sour from a flask that burns going down. By the time the sun is high, though you can't see it through the smoke, you've done 4 chimneys. Your back is stiff. Your fingertips raw. The soot has gotten inside your sleeves, behind your ears, under your toenails. You scratch without realizing it. Then you scratch harder. It itches like nothing else, and the more you rub, the more it burns. The older boys say it's called chimney itch. It'll pass, or it won't. You try not to think about the scabs you saw on Jory's back yesterday. The thick pink ones that oozed when he moved. Mr. Hobb didn't say a word. Just hit him when he slowed down. By mid-afternoon, your bones feel like they've shrunk a size. The cart you're riding in creaks over cobbles, every bump rattling through your spine. You sit between 2 boys who don't talk, their faces streaked in ash, their eyes fixed forward like they're watching something that isn't really there. London rolls past in shades of brown and grey, bricks stained with soot, windows fogged with coal dust, boots squelching through street sludge the colour of old tea. A woman passes with a basket of wilted herbs, her apron tied crooked, her cough rough and unfiltered. You meet her eyes for a second. She looks away. You're not something people want to see, just another blackened shape moving through a blackened city. The cart slows in front of a wealthier house in Clerkenwell. That means marble hearths and taller flues. Mr. Hobb mutters about tips. He combs his hair with soot-stained fingers and tells you lot to stand straighter. You try, but your shoulders are slumping under the weight of the day already. Inside, the house is all echoes and shine. Clean walls, clean curtains. You're careful where you step, even if your boots are already dripping filth onto their polished floorboards. The lady of the house winces when she sees you, then disappears. The butler points toward the drawing room and says something about the nursery flue. That's yours. Narrow, high and winding, made for someone your size. You follow the servant's gesture and glance at the wallpaper as you walk by. Birds and vines. Pretty. Doesn't belong to your world. The fireplace is framed in marble, cold and glossy, and the grate has barely a trace of ash. Still you're told to clean it. Show the rich that their chimneys are as pure as their linens. You take off your cap, duck into the hearth and begin the climb. This flue smells different. Less scorched, more like dust and forgotten candle wax. You move slowly. The turns are sharp, the soot packed tight from lack of use. As you twist your way up, one foot slips and your shin knocks against the wall. You bite your lip not to scream. Somewhere far below, the butler is asking Mr. Hobb how much longer this will take. Near the middle of the flue, it narrows so sharply your breath catches. You don't move for a second. Then you ease forward, head tilted, shoulder dragging. There's a brick jutting out where it shouldn't be. Someone built this chimney like a puzzle box. You press yourself against the side and worm past it. You can feel your heartbeat in your ears. Your fingers fumble for the brush and you shove it upward. It snags, pulls back, then pushes through the top. Done. Except now you've got to get back. And that's always worse. Your knees slide in the soot, your elbows scrape. You twist too fast and your back cramps. By the time your boots touch the floor of the hearth again, you're shaking. Mr. Hobb is outside, arguing with the butler over pay. You stand in the corner, trying not to breathe too loudly. The lady walks in, smells the smoke on you, and winces again. She gives you a halfpenny and says it's for bread. You thank her and leave it in your pocket. Later, Mr. Hobb will collect it like he always does. When you return to the cart, the boys are arguing about a chimney over in Camden that swallowed a sweep hole. They say he never came out, just sort of disappeared, like the bricks folded over him. One of them says it's haunted now. Another says it's cursed. You stay quiet. You've heard too many stories. Some sound made up, some sound too real. There was a boy in the next borough who fell asleep in the flue, suffocated before they found him. One time a chimney stack collapsed with a sweep inside. They had to dig through rubble for hours just to find his foot. Mr. Hobb says that's why you never nap, not even when you're tired, and you're always tired. The day drags on, 2 more chimneys, then another. Each one leaves more of your skin behind than the last. You start to understand the way soot gets under your nails and never truly leaves. Some of the boys have hands that look like they were carved out of coal. You're getting there. Your face itches constantly, your lips crack. You drink from the gutter when there's no pump nearby. No one stops you. You're just a sweep. By evening, your legs wobble with each step. Mr. Hobb says you're lucky it's spring. Summer's worse, chimneys get hot, even hotter than the streets. And winter, well, winter's cold enough to make your bones chatter inside the flue. You nod. You don't say anything. The boys head back to the shed behind the butcher's, dragging bags of soot and rolled brushes. You sit on your heels and pick at a cut on your thumb that hasn't healed since last week. Supper is more crust, more silence. You eat it slowly, tasting nothing. Your mouth feels like burnt cotton. There's a rat in the corner of the shed, chewing something wet. You try not to look. You curl up on the same sack, pressing your knees to your chest, and wonder if there'll ever be a day without black fingernails or bruised ribs. The older boys fall asleep fast. Some snore, some twitch. You lie there, staring at the rafters, counting the cracks in the wood, listening to the wind slide between gaps in the wall. Eventually you sleep. Your dreams are strange, half-formed things. Chimneys that never end, walls that breathe, shadows that reach out and grab your ankles. You wake coughing. Again, your throat feels like sandpaper dipped in smoke. Morning hasn't come yet, but Mr. Hobb is already banging on the door. Something about a big job over by the docks. You dress in silence. Your socks are still wet from yesterday. Your boots stink. You scrape dried soot off your shirt and cough into your elbow. The air outside is cold and damp and thick with river fog. London doesn't so much rise as it oozes awake. You can hear the Thames from here, low, gurgling, like something alive under the city's skin. You follow the others through alleys, over broken paving stones, past dogs picking at scraps in the gutters. One of the older boys slips and falls in the muck. Mr. Hobb swears and yanks him up. No one laughs. There's no room for laughter when you know how fast a chimney can take you. The house by the docks is leaning slightly, as if it's tired of holding itself up. A crooked stack pokes from its roof like a snapped finger, darkened with years of coal smoke and salt. The building belongs to a retired sailor, or so Mr. Hobb says. You can smell fish bones and brine even from the street. The chimney's wide at the base, but narrows unpredictably further up, like someone built it drunk. Hobb volunteers you again, smallest, lightest, and, he adds with a sharp smile, the least likely to complain. You clamber into the hearth and start climbing before he can say anything else. The flue is slick. You realise quickly that the inner wall is damp in places. Damp soot is worse than dry. It clumps, it smears, it clings to your elbows and cheeks like tar. The air inside is thick with mould and smoke, and there's something else, something sour. Dead bird, maybe. You keep crawling, each twist scraping your ribs, each push driving soot deeper into your skin. Your breath is shallow. You pause once, holding still, unsure if it's your heartbeat you hear, or the groan of the house itself shifting in its bones. You reach a fork in the flue where 2 narrow passages split off. Hobb didn't mention that. You guess and pick the one that smells slightly less rotten. Wrong choice. It dead ends after a short bend, and reversing in a chimney is a nightmare. You twist, curse under your breath, and start backing out inch by inch, hips scraping against the bricks. At one point you stop because your shirt snags on something. An old nail or bolt, maybe. You tug gently. It tears. Doesn't matter. The shirt was more whole than cloth anyway. When you finally rejoin the main flue and start up the correct side, your legs are shaking. Your eyes sting from smoke residue. You jab the brush upward, feel the resistance, push harder, and finally the blockage gives. A lump of old soot falls past your face. Some gets in your mouth. You spit and gag. There's a flicker of light now. You're near the top. You twist your neck and look out through the pot just enough to see a slice of grey sky and a lone gull coasting in the mist. Climbing down is harder. Your legs are rubber. Your arms cramp. You slide a little too fast and bark your shin on a protruding brick. When you emerge from the hearth, black from scalp to sole, the sailor laughs. Not cruelly, more out of surprise. Says you look like you've been to hell and back. You don't respond. Mr. Hob pockets the payment without blinking. He doesn't even check on the scrape on your leg. It's bleeding now. You wipe it with your cuff, no bandage, no water. Just grit your teeth and move on. There's a moment where you catch your reflection in the glass of a dusty cabinet. You barely recognise yourself. The soot outlines your face like a mask. Your eyes look older than they should. Behind you, the gull cries again. The sound echoes oddly through the bricks. You leave without looking back. The sailor waves. You nod. Another house waits. Another climb. Another chance to get stuck. You wonder, not for the first time, how many chimneys London actually has. It feels like you've been in all of them already. Later that day, while resting on a pile of brush poles, one of the older boys named Pike starts talking about his cousin who got out. Left the trade, went into the tailoring or cobbling, something with a roof and windows. He talks like it's a fairy tale. You listen, not because you believe him, but because the sound of his voice distracts you from the fire under your fingernails. Pike says his cousin used to sweep for Mr. Hob 2 years ago. Said he once saw Hob throw a boy in the canal for skipping work. You don't ask if that boy came back out. Pike shrugs and spits in the dirt. Says the only way out is to grow too big, too tall to fit up the flue. Then Hob sends you packing or makes you carry bags and scrape grates instead. Not easier, just different. You wonder if your body will ever get the chance to outgrow anything. You're thin now. Thin like rope, like bones in a sack, and your appetite disappeared weeks ago. Food means little when the soot coats your throat and everything tastes like ash. As the sky darkens, the fog thickens. The gas lamps flicker to life one by one, lighting the streets in pools of weak gold. You and the others walk single file, tools over your shoulders, trailing grime behind you like smoke. A few people glance at you and then look away. Soot boys don't get smiles. You pass a bakery with the window open and the smell of warm bread reaches out like a hand. One of the boys slows down. Mr. Hob grabs him by the collar and jerks him forward. No stopping, no looking. Your stomach knots even though it's mostly empty. You think about the way the bread would taste and how the crust would flake under your teeth, how it might burn the roof of your mouth in the best way. But it's not for you. You walk faster. Behind you, someone starts coughing again. Could be you, could be any of you. The coughs all sound the same, dry, ragged, deep. The kind of cough that wraps itself around your ribs and won't let go. Back at the shed, you strip down to your shirt and shake soot from your sleeves. You rub your arms where the bricks scrape them raw and stare at the dark stain on your knee where the blood dried. The others don't say much. One boy cries quietly in the corner, rocking a little. No one goes to him, you know better. Crying draws attention, and attention draws fists. Mr. Hob locks the door and disappears into the butcher's. You're left in the half-dark, listening to mice scuttle under the floorboards. Someone lights a candle stub. The light flickers across soot-streaked faces. You lie down on your sack and pull your cap over your eyes. Your whole body hums with ache. Somewhere outside, the city groans and breathes and blinks its yellow eyes. The air smells of blood and coal and cooked fat. A dog howls 2 streets over. You close your eyes tighter. There's no such thing as rest, not really. Just hours between jobs, and dreams full of chimneys that stretch all the way to the clouds. Morning, again, or what passes for it in London. You wake to the sound of someone vomiting in the alley. The shed smells like sweat, rot, and damp wool. Your bones hurt in that dull, steady way that makes them feel older than they are. You blink against the grainy light slipping through the cracks in the wood. Your throat's sore again. Maybe from the soot, maybe from the cold, maybe both. There's a smear of black across your arm where you must have scratched in your sleep. Mr. Hob bursts in, kicking a boot against the post to wake you all. He's got a job lined up in Kensington. Posh folk, he says. The kind with fireplaces in every room. That means a long day and maybe, just maybe, a better tip. If you don't screw it up. You eat a bite of stale bread that tastes like floor. Then you file out behind the others, down the narrow streets that still smell like yesterday's rain and old fish. One of the older boys calls it the city's perfume. No one laughs. The Kensington house is 3 stories high, with a brick front and iron railings. The butler's got gloves on, even indoors. He wrinkles his nose when you step in. The maid won't meet your eyes. You're led to the main parlour first, where the hearth is clean but the chimney needs freshening, whatever that means. You go up, The flue here is narrow but smooth, like it's been swept recently. Still, soot comes down when you brush, it always does. You're used to the taste by now, like licking a coin, like chewing on burnt wood. You're fast, efficient. Hob likes that. Likes that you don't talk, don't complain. There's another hearth in the nursery, then one in the library, then one in the dining room. Each time you climb, each time you scrape, you feel the soot soaking into your skin like ink, like it's rewriting you. Between climbs, you sit quietly by the tools. Your legs throb. Your back feels like it's being held together with string. A footman brings water in a glass and sets it on a tray like he's serving the Queen. You drink it in 2 gulps. At the top of the house, there's an attic room with a fireplace no one's used in years. Mr. Hobb sends you up without even testing the space. The flue is dry, brittle. Bits of brick crumble as you move. You feel the entire thing shift once under your weight. Just for a second. A heartbeat. Then stillness. You hold your breath, wait. Nothing. You keep moving. The soot here is drier. Older. Less smell. More dust. You reach the bend and twist your shoulder the way you've learned to, careful not to catch your shirt. You can hear your own breath bouncing off the walls. When you reach the top, there's a sudden gust of wind that makes you flinch. The chimney pot is cracked. You wedge the brush in, sweep gently, and start to slide back down. The flue doesn't like it. You hear a crack. A brick gives way near your boot. You freeze. One more twitch and the wall might collapse. You hold yourself perfectly still, arms braced, legs locked. You breathe through your nose. A full minute passes, then another. Slowly, carefully, you shift your weight and slide past the broken brick. The wall groans but holds. When you emerge, covered in fine white grey dust, Mr. Hobb barks at you for taking too long. You don't explain. There's no point. The maid looks horrified when she sees you, like she's seen a ghost crawl out of the fire. You blink soot from your lashes and step outside. Your hands are shaking. Pike hands you a piece of licorice from his pocket. You put it in your mouth even though it's warm and fuzzy. Still, it's better than soot. On the cart ride back, you rest your head against the side and close your eyes. London rumbles past, wagons creaking, boots splashing, voices shouting through the fog. You think about the brick that cracked and wonder how many chimneys are waiting to do the same. You think about your ribs. They feel bruised, not broken, not yet. You think about that cracked chimney pot, how the wind came down so sharp it felt personal, the kind of wind that doesn't want you up there, that wants the flues left alone. You think, for a moment, that maybe the chimneys have their own moods, their own grudges. When you get back, it's almost dark again. Hobb counts the coins, divides nothing. Says you're lucky to have work. Says he could find 10 more boys like you by morning. Maybe he could. Maybe he already has. One of the younger lads, maybe 7, is coughing up black. Not the soft kind, the rattling wet kind. Hobb tells him to sleep it off. He will, or he won't. You curl up on your sack, sore and starving. No dinner tonight, not even crust. You think about running, you always think about it. But where would you go? There's no home, no family, not anymore. Just soot and cold and the sound of boots on cobblestones. You close your eyes. The city keeps talking outside, dogs barking, drunks singing, a door slamming in somewhere far off. You breathe slowly, trying to keep the cough down. Your fingers twitch. Your legs ache. But you're still here. That's something. You survived another day, just barely. Tomorrow is Sunday, but that doesn't mean rest. Hobb's got a contract with the church nearby. Big chimney, old bricks, high stack. He says it's holy work. Cleaning the flue for the Lord's fire. You don't feel blessed. You feel like your spine is one wrong bend away from snapping. Still, when the sun creeps over the rooftops, weak and watery, you're already pulling your cap on. The church is colder than the shed. The priest won't speak to any of you, just waves vaguely toward the apse and disappears. The hearth is massive, built for big winter services. That means a huge flue, 20 feet high, maybe more. Hobb eyes you and Pike, says one of you's going up and the other is fetching tools. Pike gets the brush, you get the flue, you're not surprised. You stare up into the black hole above the altar and think it looks like a mouth, open and hungry. You step into the hearth and feel the cold climb your spine like a wet finger. This flue is older than most, carved out of brick long before anyone thought about safety or sense. The soot here is ancient. You can smell centuries of fires, pine and coal, burnt parchment, maybe even old tallow. You start the climb, slow and careful, the walls closing quickly. You wedge your knee against a corner and push upward. The stone groans beneath your boots. You reach a flat bit and pause to breathe. The air is stale, the smell is sharp. You cough once and taste metal. Somewhere outside, the church bells ring, low, slow, mournful. You move again, your fingers slide across soot-slick walls. You think you see a spider, but it's hard to tell with your eyes watering. The world has narrowed down to black bricks and your own breath. Up here, it feels like you've left the city behind. It's just you and the flue and the dark. Near the bend, you get stuck. Not fully, just enough that it feels like the chimney has decided to hold you. You wiggle your shoulders, your ribs scrape, you twist and one boot slips. You don't fall, but your knee bangs the wall hard enough to spark stars behind your eyes. You grit your teeth, wait, breathe, move again, inch by inch. You're learning to listen to the chimney now, how it shifts, how it pushes back. Some flues don't want to be cleaned. They want silence, soot and stillness. You push the brush through the crown, wait for it to rattle, then pull it back. You brace yourself, start the descent. There's a crack somewhere below you, a soft, brittle sound, and you freeze. But it holds. When you reach the bottom again, Pike is there. He hands you a rag for your face. You wipe it half-heartedly. It just smears the soot around. Mr. Hobb gives the priest a crooked smile and pockets the coins. Says it's a blessed day. You wonder if he means it or if he's just testing how hard he can lie before lightning strikes. You walk back through the cold, the fog rolling in thicker than usual. Curls around your boots, wraps around your knees, makes the city feel like it's hiding something. Maybe it is. You pass a dead pigeon in the gutter, wings stiff, eyes gone. No one stops, no one blinks. Pike mutters something about bad luck. You nod. He gives you a piece of broken toffee. You chew it even though it hurts your teeth. Your fingers are too stiff to bend properly. The soot gets in the joints, makes them swell, makes them lock. At the shed, you peel off your shirt and look at your arms. The rash is back, red and raised and angry. You scratch it with the corner of a nail until it bleeds a little. Doesn't help, but it's something to do. The others are quiet tonight. Tired in that deep way that makes talking feel like too much work. One boy has a black eye. Hobb says he fell. No one believes it. No one says otherwise. You all lie down and stare at the roof waiting for sleep or something like it. That night you dream of climbing. Not chimneys, but something else, narrower, darker. Winds and twists, and there was no top, no bottom. Just walls and dust and your own heartbeat pounding like a drum. You wake coughing. Your throat feels raw, your lips are cracked. Your shirt is soaked in sweat and soot. You sit up slowly, knees screaming. The sun is barely up. A soft yellow haze glows through the slats in the wall. Mr. Hobb's not here yet. You look around. The others are still asleep. You think just for a second about not getting up. About staying curled on your sack and letting the day pass without you. But your body moves before your brain decides. You're dressing. You're lacing your boots. You're stepping outside into the cold and again, because that's what you do. Yeah, that's what you do. That's what this life is now. Wake, climb, cough, sleep, repeat. Today's job is in Holborn. Big house, fancy chimney with twists meant for looks, not sense. You're sent up second after a boy named Lyle gets stuck halfway. He's too thick in the shoulders now. Hobb growls that he's been eating too much. Tells you to go in and pull him back down. You try. Lyle's face is red. His arms shake. You reach up, grab his ankles and pull. He screams. You freeze. He slips an inch. Then another. Then suddenly he's falling. Half controlled, half free. He crashes onto you, and the two of you land in a pile on the hearth. You can't breathe for a second. Just wheeze and blink and try not to vomit. Lyle curls up on the floor, sobbing. Mr. Hobb shouts that he's soft, that he'll never sweep again. You sit against the wall, lungs burning, ribs flaring. No one helps. You're not hurt bad enough to stop, just bruised. Always bruised. Later you sit in the cart with Pike. He asks if you have ever thought about going somewhere else. Not London, somewhere green, somewhere with trees and rivers and no chimneys. You say you don't know. He nods. Says he probably won't leave either. Says it's easier to think about it than do it. You both go quiet after that. The cart rattles over cobbles. A rat darts across the street in front of you. The driver doesn't even flinch. The sky is pale, and your breath fogs in front of your lips. You wonder what it would take to leave, if your feet would even remember how to walk that far, if the soot in your lungs would let you breathe fresh air again without coughing it out. You doubt it, but still, sometimes the thinking is enough. The next morning starts with rain. Cold, sharp, slanted rain that doesn't fall so much as slash sideways through the narrow London alleys. You're soaked before your boots hit the street. The cuffs of your trousers drink it up like thirsty cloth, dragging the weight down with each step. Mr. Hob has you working near Fleet Street today. Rich people, tall chimneys, the usual. You cough into your sleeve and taste iron. Pike mutters something about wet soot being the worst, and he's right. The water turns it to sludge, makes it cling tighter, harder to breathe, harder to move. First job's a merchant's house with a dining room chimney, long enough to qualify as a tunnel. You're sent in first. The hearth's barely big enough for your hips. The flue starts straight but takes a mean turn halfway, and you already know that corner's going to bruise your ribs. You shuffle forward on hands and knees, the brick slick and crumbling under your palms. Every time you move, water drips from above. A small, steady patter like a clock counting the seconds until something goes wrong. It gets tighter just as the air turns worse. You can smell something dead. Rat or bird, doesn't matter. It's above you, trapped somewhere near the crown. You swallow and keep going. Your elbow slips. You brace fast and scrape the skin off your knuckles in the process. Doesn't matter. You push. Your shoulder catches. You wiggle sideways. You mutter a prayer to a god you don't believe in. The soot tastes like mould now, like rot. When you reach the blockage, it's exactly what you feared. A rat, stuck with its tail stretched straight, jaws opened or in a silent squeak. You nudge it with the brush. It crumbles, mostly bone and dust. You sweep around it, force the brush through and start to slide back. That's when your foot jams. Not badly, just enough to stop you. You kick once, twice. You can't breathe right anymore. Not just the soot this time. Panic. Your chest tightens. You can't see your foot. You feel the flue narrow. You hold still. Focus. Breathe in, breathe out. Shift your ankle. There, loose. You slide slowly, clumsily, and spill out into the hearth with a thump. You don't cry, though your eyes sting. Hob tells you to get up. No time for lying about. You do. You always do. The next house has a flue so tight you need to go in sideways. You're shaking, but you climb in anyway. Pike catches your eye just before you go. He doesn't say anything, but you know what it means. Same thing it always means. Keep going. Survive the day. It rains harder by afternoon. Your shirt is soaked. Your fingers pruned. You try not to shiver. The brick leaches the heat from your body like a sponge. Hob gets into a row with a customer over pricing. You watch from the cart, your breath fogging in the chill. The argument ends in a grunt and a coin toss. You don't get a share. Never do. That evening, Hob buys a meat pie and eats it in front of you all. Says you wouldn't appreciate the flavour anyway. Pike spits behind the cart. You don't bother, you're too tired. Back at the shed, one of the youngest boys, Tommy, starts coughing blood. Thin, bright streaks in his spit. Hob doesn't notice, or pretends not to. Pike wraps him in a spare coat and tells him to sleep. You lie next to the wall and stare at the beam overhead. You count the knots in the wood. 1, 2, 3, 4. You try not to think about Tommy. You try not to think about your own chest. The tightness, the cough that won't go. You scratch your arms. The rash has spread to your belly now. Raised bumps that itch like fire. You press your fingernails against them until you bleed. Still better than thinking. You dream that night about smoke, not the black kind. White, thick and swirling. You walk through it barefoot, your clothes clean, your body light. When you wake up, your face is crusted with blood from your nose. You wipe it off with the back of your hand and don't mention it. There's a job the next morning at a boarding house. Big place, 3 stories, 12 chimneys. Hob's thrilled. Says it's a gold mine. You're less excited. Your legs still feel like they belong to someone else. You've got scrapes on your ribs, bruises on your thighs. You climb anyway. Always do. The flue is older, rougher. Someone botched the bricks years ago. You can feel the edges where they don't line up right. You twist carefully, plant one hand above your head, and push. Dust rains down. A brick shifts near your knee. You stop. You listen. You move on. You reach the top, sweep, descend, repeat. Another flue, another climb. The work blurs into itself. Your fingernails are black now, not from dirt, from under the nail, inside it. Your hands are swollen. When you reach the hearth again, Pike says your lip's bleeding. You hadn't noticed. You wipe it. You shrug. Hob tells you to move faster. You do. That night, you sit outside the shed with Pike and stare at the sky. The stars barely peek through the smoke. Pike asks if you think it ever clears, really clears. Not just for a moment, but for days, weeks. If there's a place where you can lie down and see nothing but stars. You say maybe. You say you've heard stories. He laughs. Says stories are all you get in this life. Soot and stories. He hands you a crust of bread. It's hard, stale, but you chew anyway. It scrapes your gums. Still better than nothing. You don't say it out loud, but you think it. You'd give anything to lie under a clean sky. Just once. Just to breathe without coughing. Just to wake without soot in your teeth. Just to stand and not feel the weight of brick pressing down on your shoulders even when you're above ground. Pike nudges you. Says don't fall asleep sitting up. You smile a little, dry and cracked. Then you go inside and try to sleep. Try. The next job is for a public house on the edge of Whitechapel, where the soot is thicker and the customers drunker. Hob says the pay is good and the chimneys are tall. You don't ask questions, you just follow. The innkeeper smells like gin and beef fat and glares at you like you're already stealing something. The hearth in the taproom is wide and burned down low, ashes from last night's fire still warm. You crouch and feel the heat in your palms. There's a hush in the room despite the clink of bottles and the scrape of stools. Men watch you climb into the chimney like it's a trick. A few mutter, one laughs. Hob says you're entertainment. That if you're quick, maybe they'll throw in a tip. You start the climb. The brick is scorched. One side slick with years of grease. You try not to think about it. Halfway up, you find a piece of broken clay pipe lodged in a corner. You slip it into your sleeve. Might fetch a farthing. If not, at least it's something that isn't straw or soot. You're almost to the crown when the shouting starts below. Something about spilled beer. You freeze. The flue vibrates with the sound of fists on tables. You imagine the chimney shaking loose. Imagine the bricks slipping like teeth. You wait, heart pounding. After a minute, the noise dies down. You reach the top and shove the brush through. Soot rains down. You begin your descent. The inside of your thigh scrapes against a jagged chip in the wall and you hiss between your teeth. At the bottom, the air is thick and sour. The innkeeper tosses you a copper. It lands near your foot and rolls away. Hob pockets it without bending. Says nothing. You step outside into the daylight, coughing hard. It's not getting better. Your cough feels wet now. Sharp. Deep. Like something's nesting behind your ribs. Pike says you sound worse than yesterday. You nod. He gives you his scarf. You wrap it around your neck, careful not to let Hob see. That night, a new boy arrives. Name's Benji. Tiny. Maybe 6. Looks like a bundle of sticks in a shirt. He clings to his satchel like it's a lifeline. Hob tells him to get used to cold floors and black lungs. You watch him curl into a corner, eyes wide, too afraid to sleep. You don't speak to him. None of you do. That's how it works. No names until you know they'll last. Some boys don't. Not past the first week. You close your eyes and try to ignore the sound of Benji's soft crying. Your own dreams are a blur. Shadows of chimneys and sliding, until the bricks fall away and there's nothing but sky. You wake with your chest tight, the cough waiting at the back of your throat like a dare. You spit black into the dirt. The sun's not up yet. Hob's already shouting. The air smells like meat and rain. You stretch. Something cracks in your back. Doesn't matter. You're up, you're moving, you're still here. You walk through streets that glisten with last night's rain. The cobbles slick and shiny like spilled ink. The morning stinks of old ale and rotting bread. Someone's dumped a crate of spoiled onions by the gutter. You sidestep it. The house today is a shop. Chimney out back, long and winding. Hob sends Benji up first. You flinch. The boy's hands tremble as he climbs into the hearth. He doesn't fit well. Not yet trained in how to twist and slide. After a few minutes, he cries out, "Stuck!" You jump in before Hob finishes his curse. You wedge yourself into the flue below Benji. You see his foot just above your eye level, twisted sideways. You reach up, push gently. He gasps. You coach him, quiet and slow. Move this leg. Now the other. Use your elbow. You hear a pop, not loud, not awful, but enough to know he's free. He slides down, thudding into your shoulder. You lower him out. Hob is furious. Says you should have waited. You ignore him. Benji is crying. Not from pain, from fear. Pike helps you wash the soot out of your mouth. He says you did right. says Hob can rot. You sit with Benji while the others work. He's small, shaky, but he'll live. You wonder what that means, really. Living. You wonder what the end of this looks like. Do boys grow out of soot, or just away from it? Pike says there are men who used to sweep that never stopped coughing. That died with black lungs and bent backs. You believe him. You look at your hands, blistered, cracked, raw. They don't look like they belong to a child. They look like something left too long in the cold. You tell Benji to sleep while he can. He nods, eyes already drooping. You lean back against the wall and close your own eyes. The air tastes like metal and mould. Your ribs ache. Your spine hums, but you're breathing. That's something. That has to count for something. The day ends with rain again. You all ride in the cart, dripping and silent. Pike hums a tune you don't know. The wheels splash through puddles. A carriage nearly clips you at a corner and the driver curses. Hob yells back. You don't listen. You're watching the sky. It's pale blue behind the clouds. You wonder what it would be like to fly, up, past the rooftops, past the pots and flues and grime, to breathe clear air, to sleep in a bed, to eat warm food, to speak without coughing. You blink slowly. The world blurs. Pike nudges your arm and points at the skyline. A single chimney with a cracked pot leans sideways, silhouetted against the last of the sun. He grins, says it looks like it's about to fall. You nod, you almost hope it does. That night, the wind howls like it's lost something. It slips through the cracks in the shed walls and whistles low over your face as you lie curled on your sack. Benji sleeps close, curled like a kitten, one hand clutching your sleeve. You don't shake him off, he's not crying anymore. That's something. Pike snores quietly, boots still on, arms folded. A candle stub flickers, casting long shadows across the soot-smeared walls. You can hear rats gnawing under the floorboards. You're too tired to care. You stare at the ceiling beam and count the notches again. 7 now. You carve the last one after the job with the collapsed flue. 1 notch for each week survived. You don't know how many more the beam can hold. You close your eyes. The wind keeps singing. Not a song you know, just the same old tune. Cold, sharp, endless. Like the sound of brick against skin. Like the rasp of a dry cough in the dark. You wake before the sun. Your joints crack like firewood as you stretch. Your neck is stiff, your back worse. Hob shouts before you're even upright. Something about a foundry. Big chimney. Hot job. Pays well. You eat the crust Pike passes you without tasting it. Your teeth hurt. All of them. Maybe it's the soot. Maybe you're just worn down to the roots. You pull on your cap, threadbare now, and help Benji with his boots. He winces when he bends, still sore from yesterday. You nod, so are you. You walk through fog and smoke to the ironworks, where the foreman waits in a coat slick with grease. The chimney's tall, 60 feet or more. Hob grins like it's a gift. You've seen chimneys like this before, the kind that bite back. You don't argue when he tells you to go up. You just step into the hearth, hands already black, and start the climb. The bricks are warm. That's worse than cold. It means that the fires are recent. You can still smell them. Metal and oil and something burnt too long. The flue narrows fast. The heat clings to your skin like a wet coat. You press forward, knees scraping, shoulders knocking. Your breath feels thick, heavy. You twist your hips to make the first bend. Your fingers brush something sharp. A bit of wire, maybe. You ignore it. Keep climbing. Halfway up, the air changes. It gets hotter. Not burning, but a close. You stop. Listen. Wait. You hear a hiss. Then nothing. Then the faint groan of metal cooling. You push on. You reach a shelf of brick, rest for a second, wipe sweat from your lip. The soot here is drier, thicker. When you shove the brush through the top, it comes back coated in ash so fine it floats when you move. You don't linger. You descend quickly, hands burning from the heat soaked into the walls. Your foot slips once, skidding on greasy soot. You catch yourself, barely. Your ankle twists. You don't cry out. You grit your teeth and keep going. When you finally crawl out, Hob tosses you a rag and tells you to get the next one ready. You nod, limp slightly, say nothing. That afternoon, the sky opens up. Not drizzle this time. Rain. Heavy, sudden, pounding. You're caught between jobs, tools soaked, socks squelching. You shelter under a bridge, all of you huddled like stray dogs. Pike shares a bit of dried apple. Benji sneezes. Hob curses the weather. You just watch the water run in rivulets down the bricks, washing away soot in long grey streaks. You wonder what it's like to be clean, really clean. Not just hands rinsed in cold pump water, but scrubbed pink and warm, washed with soap, wrapped in a towel. You close your eyes and imagine it. For a minute it's real. Then the wind shifts and you shiver. The others are quiet. Rain's too loud for talking anyway. You wait for it to slow. It doesn't. You go back out in it anyway. Hob doesn't believe in waiting, doesn't believe in anything except pay and speed. You climb another chimney in soaked clothes, water running down your back like a second spine. You cough once, twice. The second time something comes up. You wipe it away without looking. That night Benji asks if you ever get scared. You pause, think, say yes. Not of chimneys, not even of Hob. Scared of forgetting. Forgetting what it felt like to not be hurting. Forgetting your own name, forgetting that there's anything beyond this. Benji nods. Says his mum used to sing to him, says he can't remember the words. You tell him to hum it anyway. He does. Quiet and broken, but it's something. Pike listens with his eyes closed. You all sit in the dark, the tune threading through the gaps in the boards like smoke. For a moment it feels like something bigger than the shed. Bigger than soot. Bigger than all of it. Then the candle dies and the moment passes. You sleep with the hum still in your ears. When you wake, the sound's gone. The rain has stopped. Hob is yelling again. Another chimney waits. You limp through the next day. Hob doesn't notice, or doesn't care. You're still useful, still small enough to climb, still fast enough to keep up. The house is old, Southwark, near the river. The kind of place that's seen plagues, fires, kings. The chimney is tall and slick, and you climb it like it's a memory. You move on instinct. Slide, twist, brace, sweep. Your hands bleed in two places. You wrap them in cloth and keep going. Pike helps you down when you finish. Doesn't say anything, just looks at your hands and nods. You sit on the curb and drink from a shared bottle. It tastes like rust. The sky above you is pale and wide. You wonder what it would take to float into it and not come back. You close your eyes. You breathe in soot. You breathe out silence. You start to lose count of the days. The soot makes them all the same. Black mornings, blacker nights, somewhere in between chimneys. There's no season anymore, just cold or wet or both. Hob's taken on another boy, this one older than you but hunched and quiet. Name's Alfie. Doesn't talk. Doesn't need to. You all know the same things. Where it hurts, what to hide, or how to breathe when your chest is full of smoke. Benji clings to your side now. He doesn't ask questions anymore. He just watches. Watches how you move, how you brace your elbows, how you stretch your legs in the flue before every bend. He's learning. That scares you. He's getting good at this, and good means he'll last longer. Longer in the soot, longer under Hob's boot. You try not to think about it. You focus on your hands, the way your nails have started curling inward. Like they're trying to crawl away from the filth. You scrape them with a bit of slate. Doesn't help. Just bleeds. There's a job near the schoolhouse, nicer part of town, bigger houses, cleaner walls. Chimneys aren't used as often, so the soot inside is old, brittle. Easier to breathe if still thick enough to coat your throat. The house has a nurse who won't let you past the nursery door. She says you smell too much like fire. Pike laughs, says that's the whole point. Hob shouts at her. Eventually she relents. You go up. It's a short flue, but the bricks are rough, sharp at the joints. You catch your hip on a jagged spot and tear your shirt open. There's blood. You press it, hold it, keep going. Always keep going. When you come back down, the nurse offers us a cloth, but Hob waves her off. Says you're fine. You're not. The cut stings with every step. Ooh. You clench your jaw. Alfie carries your brush back to the cart without a word. You nod at him. That's as close to thanks as anyone gets. That night you wash in rainwater pooled in a broken barrel. It's freezing. You scrub until your skin goes red. Pike says it won't come off. Says no matter how hard you scrub, you'll never get all the soot out. He's right. You can feel it in your ears, under your eyelids, in your teeth. Like it's part of you now. You stare at your reflection in the water and barely recognize it. Hollow cheeks, cracked lips, eyes too old for your face. You look away. You dry off with a bit of rag and crawl back into the shed. Benji's already asleep, thumb tucked into his fist. He twitches once, then settles. You lie beside him and stare at the wall. Somewhere in the distance, church bells chime. You try to count them, Lose track at 5. Your head aches, your throat burns. You close your eyes and hope the next chimney isn't worse than the last. But it is. It always is. This one's at a bakery. The flue winds like a snake, tight and steep. You go in first. Hob says you're the only one small enough. The bricks are warm and sticky with grease. The soot clings like syrup. Your fingers slide, your boots skid. You reach the bend and feel something crack. Your elbow, maybe. You keep moving. The heat builds with every inch. Your shirt soaks through. The air thins. You cough once, twice, then again. You can't stop. You reach the top, shove the brush through and nearly collapse. You rest your forehead against the brick. It burns. You don't care. The descent feels like falling. When you land on the hearthstone, the world spins. Pike catches your arm. You lean on him until the ground stops moving. Hob says nothing, just nods toward the next house. You don't argue. You're already limping there. Later, in the cart, Pike says you're burning up. He presses the back of his hand to your forehead. You flinch. He says you've got fever eyes, bright and watery. You tell him you're fine. He doesn't believe you. You don't either, but it doesn't matter. There's no stopping. Not unless you want Hob to find someone smaller. Benji's smaller. You grit your teeth and force yourself upright. You won't give him that excuse. You won't give him the chance. When you reach the shed, you collapse on your sack and don't move. Your dreams are strange. Bricks, crumbling, chimneys twisting into knots, soot that crawls like insects. You wake shivering. The fever hasn't broken. Your bones ache like they've been hollowed out and filled with ash. Still, you get up. You pull on your boots. You tie your cap. You step into the cold. That day, Benji climbs his first chimney alone. A small one, easy angle, shallow bend, but still. He's nervous. You walk him through it. Tell him when to twist, when to brace. He nods like he's memorizing scripture. You stand at the base while he climbs. You listen. You don't breathe until you hear the brush scrape the top. Then you exhale. When he slides down, he's shaking but smiling. Hob claps him on the back and says he's earned his soot. Benji looks at you. You nod once, he nods back. That night, you give him your bit of bread. You say you're not hungry. He doesn't believe you. He eats it anyway. You lie down with your hands over your stomach and pretend it doesn't hurt. Pike hums something soft. Alfie snores. Benji sleeps curled into your ribs. The candle flickers once, then goes out. Your fever holds for 2 more days. You sweat through your shirt. Your legs feel like wet rope. But you climb. You always climb. Hob doesn't care that you're swaying on your feet. He only notices if your hands stop moving. You lose track of how many chimneys you've done. The heat in your skull makes everything fuzzy, like you're watching the day from underwater. At one point, you think you see your own shadow leave your body and crawl into the flue before you. You follow it without question. You wake up coughing in the cart, Pike shaking your shoulder. He says you passed out. You say you didn't. Hob barks at both of you to shut it. Benji watches you with wide eyes. He doesn't say anything, just passes you a bit of potato from his pocket. You take it, chew slowly. It's cold and hard and tastes like heaven. You squeeze his hand. His fingers are warm. Yours are shaking. The next job is a mansion. Real, fancy, carpeted halls, candles in brass sconces, the works. You aren't allowed through the front. They send you in the back like the rats. The kitchen chimney is massive, built for roasts and feasts and winters without end. The flue is wide but tall, upward forever. You climb, bricks smooth, worn with age. The soot is light, like powder. You push the brush high, scrape, twist, clear the crown. The light above is blue this time, a slice of sky. You pause just long enough to see it, just long enough to feel it on your face. The breeze brushes your skin, cool and dry. You close your eyes and for 1 second you're nowhere. Not in London, not in soot, just air and wind and sky. Then someone below yells. Hob, probably. You descend. At the base, your knees buckle. Pike catches you again. Hob glares but doesn't speak. Even he can tell you're running low on whatever keeps a body upright. That night, Hob doesn't show up at the shed. First time in weeks. The boys eat slow, suspicious. You sit with your back against the wall, the cold biting through your shirt. Pike says maybe Hob's drunk somewhere. Maybe he fell in the river. Maybe he's found some new boys and left you here to rot. No one knows. No one dares hope. Benji rests against your arm, breathing soft. You scratch the rash on your chest. It's spreading. Red and angry, you hide it under your sleeve. Alfie hands you a chipped tin mug of pump water. You drink it like it's gold. No one speaks for a while, just chewing, swallowing, breathing. The quiet feels strange. Like the city has taken a breath and isn't ready to let it out yet. You wake to Boots, not Hobbs, police, 2 of them. Thick coats, red cheeks, batons hanging low. They ask questions. One of the neighbours complained. Said the coughing was keeping their baby awake. Said they heard a boy crying last night. You all stand in a line, eyes down. One officer pokes through your tools. The other asks who's in charge. No one answers. Pike says Hobbs not here. Says you haven't seen him since yesterday. They write something on a scrap of paper. Hey, buddy, say he'll be back. Say someone from the parish might stop in. You don't believe them. You've heard that before. The officers leave. You let out the breath you didn't know you were holding. Benji clings to your sleeve again. Alfie spits in the dirt. You all go back to work. Chimneys don't clean themselves. The day drags. The sky is low and heavy, like it's pressing down on your shoulders. Every step feels like a question your legs can't answer. Your fingers are cracked open. You wrap them in cloth, then unwrap them because it gets in the way. The soot clings harder when you're tired. One chimney jams near the top. You have to wedge your body in sideways and twist until the blockage gives. It's a bird's nest. Bits of egg still clinging to the straw. You sweep it clear and climb back down, your ribs aching, like they've been beaten from the inside. The homeowner offers no tip. Just a nod. Just a quick wipe of the floor where your boots left black behind. You stand in the rain outside and let it rinse the worst of it away. It doesn't help. The soot is in your hair now, in your nails, in your bones. That night, Hob is still missing. The shed is cold. You're too sore to lie flat, so you lean against the wall. Pike sits next to you, chewing something tough and grey that might have once been meat. Benji curls into a tight ball and mutters in his sleep. Alfie sharpens a stick with a bit of glass. No one speaks. No one wants to say what they're all thinking. What if Hob doesn't come back? What if this is it? No more jobs? No more work? No more food? Freedom's a strange thing when you're starving. Pike says he knows a warehouse where old stevedores sleep. Says maybe they'd take you in. You nod, but you don't move. Not yet. The rain taps steady against the roof. Your fingers twitch, your lips are cracked. But your lungs are still working, your legs barely, your heart just enough. You stare into the dark and wait. The city breathes, you breathe with it. You wake with the taste of metal in your mouth. Not from blood, though there's that too, but from the air itself. It's thick and sharp, like the inside of a rusted pipe. Pike's already up, poking at the dying coals in the corner stove. Hob still hasn't returned. No jobs lined up, no shouting, no boots slamming down the alley. You almost don't know what to do with the quiet. Alfie shrugs and says, maybe he's dead. Pike says, don't jinx it. Benji clutches his sack tighter. You pull on your boots anyway. You've never not worked. It feels wrong sitting still. The soot itches under your skin like it's looking for a chimney. Eventually Pike decides to head out on his own. Says he's going to ask around. You offer to come. He tells you to rest. You don't. You walk anyway. You trail him through the narrow lanes and muddy alleys, boots slipping on the slick bricks. The fog is heavy again, folding around your shoulders like an old coat. The city without Hob feels like a different beast. A little quieter. A little less cruel. Or maybe it just feels that way because your ribs don't hurt as much from climbing. You pass other boys, not sweeps, shoe shiners, match sellers. One's got a basket of cold muffins and a cough that sounds worse than yours. You look at him and wonder if you'll end up like that, still working, still starving, just with different soot. Pike talks to a man behind a stable, something about day work lifting crates. You wait in the shadows, Benji at your side, fingers looped through yours. Pike returns, shaking his head. Says they're full. Says maybe tomorrow. You nod. You head back. It starts to drizzle. Just a little, but enough to feel it in your bones. Your boots leak. Your shirt sticks. When you return to the shed, Alfie's asleep and someone's stolen the last crust. You don't say anything. Benji's stomach growls so loud it sounds like a dog. You give him your scarf to chew. He doesn't smile, just nods. The day after, Pike wakes you early. Says someone's found Hob. He's in jail. Picked up for fighting or stealing or both. Nobody's clear on the details. All they know is he's not getting out anytime soon. Maybe not ever. The news sits strange in your chest. Not joy, not fear. Just a weight shifting from one side to the other. You ask what now? Pike shrugs. Says you could leave. But where? He doesn't answer, doesn't know. None of you do. You all sit outside the shed for hours watching the street go by. Benji hums quietly. Alfie tosses pebbles at the wall. Eventually Pike stands and says there's an old flue behind the tannery. Might still be good soot left in it. No pay, but maybe the bricks are warm enough to sleep beside after. You all go, not because it makes sense, because it's something to do, because motion feels better than stillness, because soot is the only thing that still makes sense in a world that forgot your name. The flue is wide and unused, cold as a well. Still, you go in, you clean it top to bottom, you cough out the ash like it owes you rent. Pike laughs once, dry and hoarse. Benji smiles at that. It's the first time you've seen his teeth in days. When you finish, you lie flat on the hearthstone and let the warmth from your own body soak into it. Alfie says it smells like old meat. You don't disagree, but it's better than the shed. You sleep there that night, all four of you, curled like cats, close for warmth, closer for safety. No master, no chimney, just the memory of soot and the ache of muscles that don't know how to rest. You wake before the others and sit outside staring at the rising light over the rooftops. London is waking up. You feel like something left behind in its gutters. That morning, a woman stops and stares at you. She's got a basket of bread and a crease between her brows. You prepare for the usual disgust, dismissal, maybe a curse. But she walks over, offers a heel of rye. Just one. No explanation, no words, just a nod. You take it. You thank her. You tear it into 4 pieces before she's out of sight. When the others wake, you hand them each a bit. No one speaks. You just chew, slow and quiet, like it's Sunday supper. Pike licks his fingers when he's done. Alfie wipes crumbs onto his sleeve. Benji hugs you hard enough to knock the wind from your chest. You laugh. The sound surprises even you. A cough follows, but it's softer now. Not clean, but not blood either. That's enough. For now, that's enough. Later that day, you find a coin near the pump, a full shilling. You look around. No one sees. No one claims it. You hold it in your hand and feel its weight. You could eat for a week, buy gloves, maybe new boots, maybe. But instead you pocket it and don't tell the others. Not yet. Not until you're sure it's real. Not until the ache in your belly fades long enough to believe in luck again. The soot is still in your lungs, the scars still fresh. But the chimneys aren't calling your name anymore. Not today, not tonight. And maybe, just maybe, not tomorrow either. You carry the coin in your pocket like a secret. Each time your fingers brush it, you feel steadier. Not because it'll fix anything, but because it might, just once, buy you the choice to stop. The thought is so strange it feels dangerous. You don't tell Pike or Benji or Alfie. Not yet. You wait. That afternoon, Pike says he's heard of a man near the docks who needs boys for a fish cart. It's not chimney work. No soot. Just hauling crates and smelling like haddock. You all go. You walk through the alleys and over the bridge with the chipped stone and the rusted railing. The Thames below looks thick and slow, like treacle made from coal smoke. The smell gets worse the closer you get. Fish and rot and river stink. But it's not the smell that turns you back. It's the man. Tall, sharp-eyed. He looks at Benji like he's weighing him, like he's buying meat. You step in front, say you're not interested. Pike hesitates, then nods. The man shrugs, says you'll come back when you're hungry enough. Maybe you will, but not today. Instead, you walk the edge of the market. You don't beg, not outright. But sometimes people drop things. A bruised apple, a crust too hard to sell, you catch what you can. By evening, you've got enough for a pocketful of crumbs and one nearly whole turnip. Benji says it's the best day in weeks. You agree. You don't mention the shilling. Not yet. That night, you return to the flue behind the tannery. Still warm, still dry, you eat slow, pressed, shoulder to shoulder, feet tucked under arms to keep warm. Alfie carves a little face into a bit of chalk, gives it to Benji, says it's good luck. Benji smiles like it's gold. You all sleep a little easier. You dream of something strange, climbing not a chimney but a ladder into open air. Your hands aren't bleeding. Your breath isn't ragged. You don't wake coughing. The next day, something changes. A woman from the parish stops you on the street. Not to yell, not to chase you off. She asks if you've seen the sweetmaster, Hob, You tell her no. She frowns. Says someone complained. Says he's not supposed to be working boys your age. Says maybe someone will come around to check. She gives you a wrapped biscuit before she leaves. Just one, you divide it 4 ways. Pike mutters that it's always after it's too late. But you tuck the crumbs into your mouth anyway and nod. You decide you'll leave soon. You don't say it yet. You don't want to break the spell. That night you pull the coin from your pocket and show Pike. His eyes go wide. Alfie just stares. Benji says it's the shiniest thing he's ever seen. You say nothing at first. Then you say maybe it's time. Pike nods slowly. Says he knows someone at the train yard. A cousin, or a cousin's mate. Someone who can get you on board. Not all of you, not yet, but one. You look at Benji, then at your hands, and you know what you're going to do. You don't sleep that night. You sit against the flue, coin in your palm, eyes on the sky. You think of your first chimney, the first time your elbows bled, the first time your foot got stuck and you thought you'd die in the dark. You think of Pike humming, of Alfie sharpening sticks, of Benji small and bright, and so damn hopeful. You breathe slow, careful. The cough is still there, but it doesn't rattle as deep. You don't know if that's good or bad. At dawn, you nudge Pike. He nods. You wake Benji. He blinks up at you like a kitten. You tell him he's going on a trip, that he has to be brave. He says, "Okay, just that, okay." You give Alfie your scarf. He wraps it twice around his neck without comment. You don't say goodbye. You just squeeze his shoulder and follow Pike into the mist. The train yard is colder than the river. Wide. Empty. The tracks stretch like veins across the stone. Pike speaks to a man with coal dust in his beard. The man eyes Benji. Then you. Then the coin. He nods once. Takes it. No words. Just a shove toward a boxcar already hissing with steam. You lift Benji up, set him on the floor and press a crust into his hands. He's shaking. So are you. He reaches out, grabs your sleeve. You lean in close. Tell him to wait. To sleep. To listen to the man on the other side. Tell him you'll find him again. He nods. Tears make his face clean in streaks. The door closes. You watch it disappear behind smoke and steel. You don't move for a long time. When you do, Pike is there. He doesn't speak. Just walks beside you back toward the city that doesn't remember your name. You spend the rest of the day quiet. No chimneys, no soot. Just silence and brick and the dull ache of ribs that don't know what rest feels like. Alfie doesn't ask what happened. He just hands you back the scarf. You shake your head. Tell him to keep it. That night the shed is quieter. Still. No coughing, no whimpering. You lie flat on your sack and stare at the ceiling. You think about Benji somewhere out there, on a train, wrapped in your coat, clutching a crust. You think maybe that's enough for one day. Maybe that's what it means to survive. Not climbing, not scraping, not coughing black into the corner. Just holding on long enough to help someone else get out. You close your eyes, you sleep, you wake to sun, real sun, not the watery kind that just pretends. This is light that reaches the ground, that warms your sleeves, that makes the bricks look almost red instead of grey. Pike whistles low when he sees it. Alfie blinks like he's never seen morning before. Maybe he hasn't. Not like this. You stretch slowly, careful of your ribs. Still sore, but not worse. The air feels easier to breathe. That doesn't happen often. You take it slow, let it settle in your chest before you ruin it with movement. Pike says he's heard talk. Someone new is setting up a sweep crew. Hobbs' replacement. Maybe. Maybe worse. Maybe not. You all look at each other like boys caught between tides. Alfie says nothing. He's carving lines into a stick with a nail. Pike spits and shrugs. You stare at the sun and say you're not going. Not anymore. Pike nods once. Says he didn't think you would. The others still need food though. Still need heat. So you walk. Not to work, but to watch. You stand near the market and look for dropped scraps. A baker's boy tosses out a cracked loaf. You grab it before the rats do. Alfie pockets a handful of apples with spots. You eat sitting on a curb, legs stretched out, boots in the gutter. You chew slow. Let it fill you. Pike says this isn't living, says it's limping. But there's no soot in your teeth. No cough at the back of your throat. Just the slow grind of a day that doesn't try to kill you. That night, you sleep outside the shed. On purpose, under the stars, or what you can see of them. You hear church bells from somewhere far away. A dog barking. the city breathing. You listen and think, maybe, just maybe, it's not breathing against you anymore. The next few days bleed together like tea stains on cloth. You don't go back to the chimneys, you make it a rule. Alfie's not sure what to do with himself. He follows Pike. They try the fish yard again. No luck. Too many mouths, not enough work. You try the pump houses, then the market, then the stables. Anything but brick, anything but soot. Sometimes you get food, sometimes you don't. One day a woman gives you a boiled egg wrapped in cloth. Says it's for your brother. You nod. You don't correct her. You take it to Alfie and let him peel it with shaking fingers. You think about how you used to live for the crust. Now, a whole egg feels like a feast. Pike jokes that you'll all turn into kings if someone hands you a potato. Alfie laughs. You do too, for real this time. You walk by one of the old jobs, chimney on a tall house near the square. You remember that flue? Remember how it bent sideways halfway up and how your ribs caught just under the last ledge? You stop, just for a second, just to stare. There's another boy now, new, smaller than you were, same stiff shirt, same eyes. He doesn't look up, just climbs. You keep walking. Pike doesn't say a word, neither does Alfie. There's nothing to say. You turn the corner and don't look back. That night it rains again. Not hard, just enough to seep into your sleeves. You huddle under the eave by the tannery and eat half a turnip. Alfie shares his biscuit. Pike hums that same tune, soft and off-key. It doesn't matter. The rain sings harmony. Later you dream about the flues. Not climbing them, watching them. Long rows of chimney pots all facing different directions. Some smoke, some don't. One opens like a mouth and speaks. You can't understand the words. You wake with your fingers curled like they're still gripping brick. You sit up, breathe slow. The cough's still there. Always will be. But it's lighter now. Not like a hand around your throat, more like a whisper at your shoulder. You'll take that. The others are still asleep, curled in tight shapes like punctuation marks. You pull your scarf tighter and look up at the sky. It's clearer than it's been in days. You can see one star. Just one. But it's real. The next morning you try something new. You go to the church. Not to pray, just to sit. They let you, surprisingly. The priest doesn't shoo you off. Just nods and keeps moving. You sit in a pew near the back and rest your head on the wood. It's warm from the sun. You don't fall asleep, but you drift, somewhere between breath and thought. Someone sings in the front. Not loud, just a few lines. A voice like water. You listen. You feel something move in your chest. Not the cough, something else, something softer. You don't cry, you don't even blink. You just sit until the voice fades and the bells chime again. Then you leave. You walk out into the light and find Pike waiting with a loaf he nicked from a window ledge. He hands it to you without a word. You break it in half and smile. A week passes, then another. The weather shifts, the wind has a bite to it now, and you wake with your fingers curled tight against the cold. Alfie finds a busted kettle in a rubbish heap and swears he can fix it. You help him gather bits of wire, and somehow he does. You boil water on a fire that smokes more than it burns, but it works. That first warm cup scalds your tongue, but you don't care. It feels like breathing again, like waking up in a world where not everything hurts. Pike finds an old blanket in a broken cart. He gives it to you without looking. You wrap it around Alfie first, then around your own legs. None of you speak about the chimney days anymore. But they live under your skin, in the way you flinch at brick, in the way you all sleep curled on your sides, in the way you watch the sky like it might forget you're down here. One morning, while looking for kindling, you find an old poster nailed to a wall. It's half torn and soaked through, but you can still read most of it. A home for boys. Not the workhouse, not the parish. A real home. Or at least a building with cots and porridge and names on doors. It's miles away, past the edge of the city. You bring the news back in your fist, crumpled and damp. Pike raises an eyebrow. Alfie just stares at it like it might disappear. You tell them what it says. They listen. No jokes. No shrugs. Pike folds the paper in half and tucks it into his coat. Says maybe. Not today, not yet, but maybe. That night you all sleep a little closer. The fire pops. The kettle hisses. The sky clears again. You count 2 stars this time. They look like buttons, or maybe eyes, watching without judgment. You think of Benji more often now. Wonder if he made it. If he found someone on the other side of the train. If he's still holding that bit of crust you gave him. Or if he traded it for something better. You hope he's clean. You hope he's laughing. You hope his fingers don't bleed when he wakes up. Sometimes you whisper his name just to hear it. Like calling it into the flue, only this time it echoes back. You imagine a street somewhere with flowers in the window, bread on the sill, a boy sitting on the steps with your scarf still tied around his neck. You don't let the others hear you talk like this. They'd understand, maybe. But it's yours. That hope, that picture in your head. It's what makes the ache in your legs feel like something worth bearing. The city doesn't change. Not really. The fog still rolls down the alleys. The soot still coats the windows. The river still stinks of salt and old rot. But something inside you does. A shift. A splinter pulling free. You still cough in the mornings, but it's quieter now. Your hands are still raw, but you wash them more. Alfie finds a bar of soap and guards it like treasure. Pike teaches you how to tie a better knot, how to mend a sock. You don't laugh, but you do smile. That alone feels like a rebellion. Some days you find a crust, other days nothing. But the air feels different. Like the city's still chewing you up, but not swallowing you whole anymore. You walk taller, not strayer, not cleaner, just taller. And that's enough. One afternoon Pike disappears, just for a few hours, comes back with a paper in his hand and a strange look in his eyes. Says the home for boys is real. Says they take ones like you, dirty, sick, coughing. Doesn't matter. They don't ask too many questions, just want names. Pike asks if you still remember yours. You say yes. You're not sure it's true, but you say yes anyway. Alfie nods, says his too. You all sit by the old fire and pass the paper around like it's a map to buried gold. It's nothing fancy, just an address, some directions, but it feels like something sharp and good, like light through soot, like wind through the chimney crown. You make a plan, not for tomorrow, for the day after, just in case. That night you sleep light, not from fear, from readiness, like your bones are waiting. When morning comes, the fog is thin and the streets are soft with dew. You pack what you have, scraps of cloth, a dull knife of the chalk Alfie carved into a face. You leave the shed without looking back. Not because it wasn't home, but because it was, and now it's not. You walk toward the edge of the city with your feet aching, your breath steady, your chest light in a way it hasn't been in months. You walk until the bricks thin out and the mud gives way to gravel. You walk until you can't smell coal anymore, and then you keep walking. The edge of the city doesn't look like you thought it would. There's no line, no wall, no sign that says you've crossed over, just less noise, fewer chimneys, more sky. You walk past open fields where laundry flaps on ropes and the air smells like grass instead of ash. Pike keeps glancing behind like he expects London to chase him down and drag him back by the collar. Alfie says nothing. He's carrying everything he owns in a bundle the size of a melon. You've got a biscuit, a bit of twine, and a name in your head that you haven't spoken out loud since the first chimney. You hold on to it now like a match you haven't struck yet. The road curves through a row of hedges. A bird flits by. You don't know its name, but it moves like freedom. Benji would have pointed, would have asked what it was. You keep walking, you reach the home just before sundown. It's plain. Brick walls, slate roof, windows with no bars. A woman stands outside with a basket. She sees you and doesn't flinch. Just waits. You all hesitate. Pike takes the first step, then Alfie, then you. The woman doesn't smile, but she doesn't scowl either. She nods, says supper's still warm, says if you want to wash up, the pump's around back. You don't speak, you just nod. The pump water is freezing. It bites your fingers, but you scrub your hands, your neck, the back of your ears. You don't stop until the water runs black, then grey, then clear. Alfie's lips are blue by the time he finishes. Pike looks cleaner than you've ever seen him. You find a towel and wrap it around your shoulders like armour. For the first time in months, you smell like something other than fire. Inside, the hall is quiet. Not silent, just gentle. Like a room waiting for voices. The woman brings you bowls. Something warm, soft, sweet. You don't ask what it is. You eat slow, careful not to spill, careful not to crease. Alfie scrapes his bowl clean. Pike finishes in 3 bites, then leans back with his eyes closed. You wipe the edge of your mouth with your sleeve out of habit, then realise there's a cloth next to your bowl. You use it instead. It feels like velvet. You're shown a room. Cots with real blankets. A window that shuts. A floor that doesn't crawl. You sit on the edge and peel your boots off. Your socks come with them, hard as bark. You fold them anyway. Old habits. Pike's already asleep. Alfie is humming. You lie back, the blanket smells like sun. You don't sleep right away. You just lie there, listening to the quiet, waiting for the chimney to call you back. It doesn't. The morning comes soft and slow, no shouting, no boots, no soot. You wake to the smell of bread and the sound of someone sweeping, not a chimney, just the floor. Your body doesn't know what to do without pain. You stretch, nothing cracks, not much anyway. You sit up, run a hand through your hair and remember you're not on stone anymore. Breakfast is porridge, hot, a little sweet. You eat it without choking. Pike gets seconds. Alfie tries to pocket the spoon. The woman catches him and just shakes her head. Says there'll be more tomorrow. That word hits like thunder. Tomorrow, not as a threat, as a promise. After breakfast they ask your names. You say it. Out loud, it feels strange. Like putting on a coat that almost fits. You don't remember the last time someone wrote it down. They do now. The days blur again, but in a different way. No soot, no bruises, just chores, lessons, a dry place to sleep, you help stack wood. Alfie learns how to polish boots. Pike fixes a broken fence and gets paid with a button and a smile. You laugh once, not loud, just enough to startle yourself. At night, you still cough. It'll never go fully, but it's softer. The blood stopped weeks ago. You wake without dread. You sleep without flinching. You dream of stairs instead of flues, of sky instead of smoke. You still think of Benji. You hope he made it somewhere like this. Somewhere with windows and spoons and people who don't yell before the sun comes up. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but you did. And if you did, maybe someone else will too. One day a man comes to the door. Says he's a writer. Says he's gathering stories of the Sweet Boys. You listen from the stairs. He asks questions. The woman says nothing, just offers him tea. He asks if she's ever seen what soot does to a child's lungs. She nods, says she has, says she's housing 3 of them right now. The man scribbles notes. You watch him, wondering how many words it takes to explain what a flu feels like at midnight when your elbow is bleeding and your foot won't move. You wonder if he'll ever get it right. Probably not. You go back to your room and sit by the window. There's a crack in the glass, but it doesn't let in wind. You breathe, just breathe. That's all. Spring arrives quietly. No trumpets, no grand thaw, just longer light in the mornings and the smell of wet grass where soot used to cling. You take it in slowly. You still flinch at loud footsteps, still hesitate at the sight of chimney stacks, but you don't have to climb them anymore. You wash your hands twice a day and the skin doesn't crack like it used to. Sometimes you sit in the yard and just watch clouds drift past the rooftops. The sky looks different now, bigger, like it's finally ready to let you in. Alfie finds a cat one morning, skinny and scarred, ears chewed to ribbons. He feeds it crumbs from his pocket and names it Smoke. The name fits. The cat sleeps curled on your feet when the nights are still cold. Pike says that means you're royalty now. You tell him if that's true, the cat's the real king. He shrugs, says that sounds about right. You're given a slate and chalk, told to write your name. You try. The letters come slow, clumsy. Your fingers still remember brick better than lines, but you do it. First the first name, then the last. The teacher nods. Doesn't smile, just nods, like she knows how much that cost. Pike's better at numbers. Alfie draws instead. Mostly flues, bent ones, broken ones, some with stars coming out the tops. He pins them to the wall by your bed. You don't mind. You dream less often now. When you do, the chimneys don't collapse, they just fade. Once you dream you're climbing, but it's a ladder, not a flue, and it leads into clouds. You don't wake coughing, just blinking at the light. Some days you work in the garden, digging, plantisting. Your hands still shake when they're in the dirt, but it's a different kind of blackened under your nails. Worms instead of soot, roots instead of rags. You find a stone shaped like a heart and give it to the cook. She laughs, says it's better than the one she's got now. You don't know what that means, but you laugh too. There's a rhythm to the days now, a pace. Wake, eat, work, rest. No bricks, no corners, no boys stuck in dark places screaming into dust. Just chores and porridge and soft blankets at night. Sometimes you sit with Pike and talk about what you'll do next. You both pretend you have a say in it. The woman who runs the home asks if you want to write a letter. You've never done that before. She says she can help. You think about Benji, about Smoke, about the city you left behind. You write something. Not a lot, just a few lines. Made it out, still breathing. Not black anymore. She posts it somewhere. You don't ask where, doesn't matter. Just writing it feels like placing a stone on the ground behind you to mark the path. Something solid, something real. Alfie watches you from the steps. You hand him the chalk. He draws a house with a cat on the roof. You nod. He grins. One day you see another sweep on the street. Not small, older, maybe 16. His face is a smear of grey, and his eyes look through people, not at them. You stop. He doesn't. He's carrying a brush over one shoulder like a soldier's musket. You wonder if he knows there's another way out. You wonder if someone tried to tell him. You don't call out. You just watch him pass. The woman beside you says nothing, just rests her hand on your shoulder. Later that night, you sketch what you saw in the dust on your windowsill. Just a shape with a brush walking into the smoke. Alfie sees it, doesn't ask, just wipes it clean. The air is warm now. Smoke spends more time outside than in. You do too. You run one morning, not far, just down the road and back. Your legs ache after, but not the same ache. Not the old ache, not the I might not wake up tomorrow ache. This is the kind that says your body is still yours, that it can be sore and strong at the same time. Pike claps when you return, says, next time it's a race. You laugh, you cough, then you laugh again. That night you dream of standing on a rooftop, not to clean, just to see. The flues around you are quiet, cold, harmless. You wake with the sun on your face and no soot in your teeth. Summer comes, real summer. Not the trickle of sun through smog, but heat that warms your spine and browns your skin. The home smells like baking bread and cut grass. Alfie has started collecting bugs in jars, beetles, ants. One particularly slow moth he names Mr. Cole. Pike helps patch the fence again. You carry water to the garden and pull weeds until your hands blister, but the pain feels honest. No soot under the nails now, just dirt, clean and warm. On Sundays they let you walk to the edge of the field. You sit under the tree and close your eyes, face tilted up. Sometimes you pretend the rustling leaves are the sound of soot falling, only this time it doesn't sting your throat. You breathe in and nothing burns. One afternoon the woman brings out a small wooden box. Inside are bits and bobs. Buttons, pins, old coins, scraps of ribbon. She calls it a memory box, says each boy who stays here adds a one thing, something small, something true. Pike drops in a bent nail, says it held together the shed roof where you used to sleep. Alfie adds a soot-smudged drawing of smoke curled around the chimney pot. You hold the box for a long time before placing your item inside. A torn bit of cloth from your old shirt cuff. Still black at the edges, still smells faintly of ash. You fold it small, nestle it into the corner, and close the lid. It's not about forgetting. It's about remembering on your own terms. About saying, yes, I was there, but not letting it be the only thing you are. A new boy arrives the next week. Skinny, quiet, eyes ringed with soot, even though he hasn't climbed in days. He won't talk, not yet. But you see the way he flinches at loud footsteps and touches the back of his neck like there's still a flue scraping past his ears. You sit beside him during supper. Slide your bread his way when no one's looking. You show him the garden the next morning. Don't say anything, just dig. Let him watch. He joins you before lunch, doesn't speak, just pulls weeds with shaking hands. You don't push, he'll talk when he's ready. Or maybe he won't. Either way, you'll be there. You always said if you made it out, you'd help someone else find the ladder. Not to climb up chimneys, but to climb out of them. Pike tells a story one night, a real one, about a man who used to sweep and now owns a boot shop, says he's got scars on his knees and a limp. But he whistles while he works and never looks up at rooftops. Alfie says, maybe you could do that. You don't answer. Not because you don't want to, because maybe you do, because the idea of being anything other than a sweep still feels too big to hold all at once. But it's there now, a seed, like the beans you planted in the garden bed. At first, just a green curl, then a leaf, then another. You check them every morning like they might disappear. They never do, they keep growing. You start drawing like Alfie. Your lines are worse, crooked, but they're yours. You draw the flue from the church, the cracked pot on the roof in Clerkenwell. The round-faced innkeeper who gave you half a copper and laughed when you crawled out looking like death itself. You draw Pike's coat, Alfie's cat, the old pump, the street where you found the coin. You don't show them all. Some go in the box under your bed, some blow away in the wind. One you keep in your pocket. A tiny sketch of Benji drawn from memory. You folded it 4 times and rubbed the edges soft. You don't know where he is, but you still carry him. Smoke disappears one morning. You look for him, call out behind buildings, shake biscuit crumbs in your palm. No answer. He was old, Alfie says. Street cats don't stay forever. Still, you keep checking for 3 days. Then one night you hear something on the roof. Just a paw step. Just a scratch. You look up. Nothing, but the sound's enough. You sit on the steps and hum the tune Pike always sings, soft and off-key. Alfie joins in by the second verse. The new boy listens, doesn't hum, not yet, but he's close, you can feel it. The harvest moon rises low and wide, the kind that makes the bricks glow amber, and the grass look like gold. It lights up the yard so bright you don't even need a candle. You lie on your back near the garden beds, fingers placed behind your head, and count the chimney pots silhouetted against the sky. You don't hate them anymore. You don't love them either. They're just there, like scars, like old shoes, part of the world but not part of you. Alfie lies beside you chewing on a bit of straw. Pike tosses pebbles into a bucket like he's playing a game. The new boy, Henry, you've learned, is finally sleeping through the night without jerking awake. He snores sometimes. You find it comforting. You get a letter one day. The woman hands it to you like it's something fragile. You don't recognise the writing. You open it slow. It's short, just a few lines. I made it. Found a place with animals. The man's nice. I still got the scarf. Tell people you gave it to me before I got famous. Hope you're not in a chimney. Benji. You read it twice, 3 times. Then you fold it carefully and tuck it inside your coat. You don't tell anyone at first. You just sit a little taller that day. Breathe a little deeper. When you do share it, Alfie grins like it was his name in the letter. Pike slaps your back so hard you nearly fall off the fence. Henry asks who Benji is. You tell him. Not everything, just enough to understand. The next week Pike leaves. Not out of anger, not out of need. He says it's time. Says the cobbler shop down the lane needs someone steady. Someone strong. Someone with hands that know how to carry more than soot. You help him fold his things, wrap his boots in newspaper. You walk him to the corner, and when he turns, he doesn't look back. You do, just once. You watch until he disappears into the mist. Alfie kicks a rock into the gutter. Henry asks if Pike's gone for good. You say no. You say he's just gone for an hour. That night you sit in the garden and stare at the patch Pike helped dig. The beans are taller now, almost up to your knee. Time slides past like water through cracks. Quiet. Constant. You grow taller. The sleeves of your shirt stop at your wrists now. Your hands are still rough, but they don't shake. You sleep longer. You cough less. You eat until you're full, sometimes even more. You've got chores and reading in the garden. Alfie draws more than ever. Henry's learning to whistle. The woman teaches you how to make stew. You burn the first one. The second one's edible. By the third, you get a smile. You write another letter. To no one. To everyone. You don't send it. You just fold it, tie it with string, and add it to the box under your bed. One day you'll have enough to fill a book. You decide that's what you want. Not to tell your story. To remember it. Autumn returns. With crisp mornings and wood smoke in the wind, you chop kindling now, stack it in neat rows. The rhythm feels good, honest. You split the wood clean and quick, like cutting through silence. Alfie catches a cold and you stay up warming water for his tea. Henry builds a bird feeder and the first robin lands the next day. You all watch like it's a miracle. Maybe it is, maybe everything is, when it's not soot. One morning you find a chimney sweep's brush tossed in a ditch behind the barn. Old, splintered. The bristles worn to nubs. You pick it up, feel the weight of it in your hand, and then set it down again. Not with fear, not with anger, just with the quiet certainty that you don't need it anymore. Winter whispers through the floorboards by mid-November. You line the windows with cloth, the soup gets thicker, the blankets get heavier. You move slower in the mornings, you huddle tighter at night. But it's not like before. There's no shaking, no frost in your boots, no coughing blood into your pillow, just cold, the kind that passes when you laugh or stand near the stove. Alfie draws firelight in yellow chalk. Henry makes up a story about a chimney that eats bad dreams. You listen, you add to it. And for the first time you let yourself imagine what it means to stay, not just survive, stay. You touch the place under your shirt where that first bruise used to live. It's gone now. So are most of them. You stand a little taller, you walk a little farther, And every time you step outside, the sky seems a little closer. The first snow falls slow and silent. You wake to a world turned white. The rooftops wear caps like bakers, and even the chimneys look gentler, their harsh lines softened under a dusting of powder. Henry gasps when he sees it. Alfie runs outside barefoot before the woman drags him back in by the collar, laughing. You press your hand against the glass and let the cold seep into your palm. For a moment, you imagine how soot would look on this white world. A smear across snow, a fingerprint where it doesn't belong. You shake it off, go outside, you scoop a handful of snow and toss it at Henry. He shrieks, the war begins. For 10 minutes you forget everything else. Just running, slipping, shouting until your lungs burn in the best way. You fall into the snow beside Alfie, your chest heaving, your face warm despite the cold. You look at the sky, no chimneys, just clouds. You stay until your clothes are soaked and the woman threatens to lock the door. Inside, the fire crackles. You hang your socks near it and warm your fingers on a chipped mug of tea. Henry leans against your shoulder. Alfie hums a song with no tune. You think about last year. Same season, different life. You remember that Christmas job in Holborn, 4 flues in one house, all tight and cracked, and this away pike nearly fell from the rooftop when the ladder slipped. You remember bleeding into your boot and not saying a word. You remember a meal of old bread and rainwater. And you remember waking up, coughing so hard it felt like drowning. You look at Henry now. His cheeks are flushed, but his eyes are clear. No soot under his nails, no panic in his shoulders. You helped that happen. You didn't mean to, you just survived. Sometimes that's enough to light a path behind you. Someone sends a parcel to the house, no name, just cloth wrapped and tied with string. Inside are scarves, 3 of them, all knit, all uneven, all clearly made by hands that tried their best. You get the red one, Alfie picks green, Henry grabs blue. You think of Benji, think of the scarf you wrapped around his neck. Maybe this is how it comes back. Not the same one, but the gesture, the warmth, the idea that someone, somewhere thought of you with their hands. You wear yours until spring, until it frays at the edge. Then you tuck it away with your drawings and your letters and that old bit of soot-stained cloth. You don't wear it to remember. You keep it because now you don't need to. At the new year, the woman lets each boy pick something to change. A habit, a routine, a rule. Henry asks for jam at breakfast once a week. Alfie wants to stay up late on Sundays. You ask for something small, paper and ink, to write more. The woman agrees. Says if it helps you sleep, she'll give you a whole notebook. And she does. It's thin, with a brown cover and soft pages. You stare at it for days before making a mark. The first page you tear out. Too stiff, too careful, the second too messy. The third one stays, just a line. I was a chimney sweep once. Then nothing for a while, but the page stays unburned. The notebook lives in your drawer beside a stone, a button, a drawing of smoke. Each night it feels heavier in a good way, like ballast, like something that keeps you grounded even as you grow taller. One morning a visitor arrives. A man in a suit with clean boots and a voice that tries not to sound official. He's from the city, he says, asking questions, wants to know if you're the same boys from the complaint list he aids. He reads names, mispronounces yours. You say nothing until the woman nods. Then you step forward. You tell him you were a sweep, that you remember the soot, the bruises, the long climb with your heart in your mouth. You don't cry, you don't yell, you just tell it. When you finish, the man doesn't know what to say. He folds his paper, says he'll file it, says it helps. You're not sure if that's true, but as he leaves, you see his shoulders sag just a little. Like maybe, for a moment, he believed you. That night you write it down. Everything. The first chimney, the cracked flue, the scream that never made it past your teeth, the coin you found, the boy you saved, the others who didn't make it out. You write until your hand cramps, then you sleep. The fire burns low, the snow piles high, the world outside is quiet. You dream of a street where every chimney pot is capped, and every rooftop has space for feet that don't slip. You dream of warmth, and in the dream someone says your name, not the way Hob used to spit it, but soft, like a promise, like it belongs to you again. By March, the ground softens underfoot. The frost gives way to mud and crocuses claw their way up through the garden beds. You kneel beside them, brushing dirt from their petals like they're made of glass. Alfie calls them chimney tongues, bright, flickering, stubborn. He draws them with green stems and fire-red blossoms. Henry says they smell like new days. You don't know if that's true, but you nod anyway. Everything smells different now, even the city when the wind blows just right, like coal dust trying to remember what clean air tastes like. You start helping the younger boys who come through, ones who flinch, ones who look up every time a shadow moves too fast. You show them where the pump water runs cleanest, where the towels are hung. You tell them how to wrap their hands to stop the shakes. You don't call it kindness, it's just what you do. The woman gives you more paper. She says you filled your first notebook and the second one's already half gone. You don't know what to do with that. You stare at the stack, thumb the edge, feel how soft the corners are getting. You write mostly at night now, when the house is quiet, when you can hear your own heartbeat without flinching. You write stories sometimes, not all of them true. One about a chimney that grew a ladder inside it. Another about a soot-covered boy who turned into smoke and floated out a flue and never came back. Sometimes you write about real things, the first time you tied your boot without pain, the time Alfie made soup and didn't burn it, the way Henry learned to whistle with 2 fingers and startle the birds. You begin to think about after. Not just what happened before, but what comes next. The woman says you could apprentice somewhere, learn a trade, carpentry maybe, or printing. You think about printing, ink that stains like soot but doesn't burn, you like the feel of it, the way letters lock together like chimney bricks. But instead of holding smoke, they carry voices. You ask questions, she gives you names, places. You walk past a printer's shop 3 times before you go inside. The man behind the counter wears thick glasses and smells like paper and metal. He asks if you can read. You say you're learning. He nods, says he needs someone who listens. You say you're good at that. He tells you to show up next week. You nod once, then walk outside and don't breathe until you reach the end of the street. That night, you sit under the tree and draw the shop from memory. The sign above the door, the stack of papers, the window with dust in the corners. Alfie peers over your shoulder and says it looks too clean. You smile, say maybe someday it'll look like that for real. He says if you end up rich, you better buy him a coat that doesn't itch. You tell him if you ever get rich, you'll buy everyone a bed and a pillow that isn't stuffed with straw. Henry says he wants shoes that don't leak. You write it all down, just in case. The fire in the yard crackles. Smoke the cat stretches across your feet and purrs like a song. You lean back and look at the stars. They're out again. All of them. One morning, a letter arrives. Not from Benji this time, from someone else and someone official. They're looking into the chimney work again, gathering names, stories. The woman asks if you'd be willing to talk. You say yes. You don't hesitate. You sit across from the man, different from the last one, and you tell him everything. Not for pity, not for anger. Just so it's written somewhere beside your notebook. So someone knows. When you finish, he thanks you, says your voice matters. You nod, but you're not sure you believe him. Still, when you walk away, there's something lighter in your chest. Not gone, just shifted, like the soot settled at the bottom instead of floating around inside. You return to the garden. Alfie's chasing a butterfly with a stick. Henry's trying to climb the fence. You join them, for no reason, just because. Later that night, you pull out a clean sheet of paper. You don't start with soot or pain or flues. You start with a boy standing on a rooftop, wind in his hair, eyes on the stars. You write slow, careful, like the words are bricks and you're building something tall and solid. Not a chimney, a tower, one you can stand on, not crawl through, one that lets in air and light and every name you've ever carried, including your own. The printer's shop smells like ink and hot metal. You show up early on your first day. The man nods and hands you a rag. Tells you to clean the trays, mind the rollers, watch your fingers. You listen, carefully. The machines groan and clatter like something alive, but you don't flinch. It's not the sound of boots or broken flues. It's rhythm, order. Something you can step into like a new pair of shoes. The man teaches slow but fair. Doesn't yell. Doesn't touch. Just shows. You breathe easier each hour you stay. By lunch, your hands are stained black again. But it's a different kind of black. You hold them up to the light. The ink gleams. You smile. Not big. Just enough to feel it stretch the edge of your cheek. Just enough to know it's real. You learn to set type. Small letters, rows of words, everything backward, everything precise. It's hard at first. Your fingers fumble. You drop a capital T down a crack in the floorboards and spend 20 minutes fishing it out with a wire. The man laughs once, just once, then shows you how to hold them steadier. You practice for hours. You memorize the trays, you clean the presses, you learn to fold pages without tearing the edges. You start to understand the difference between ink that dries and ink that smears. One day he asks if you can spell your name. You nod. Say it clearly. Set it in type. Print it on a scrap. It comes out crooked, but you carry it home like it's gold. The others notice the change. Alfie points at your clean collar and calls you fancy. Henry asks if he can come watch one day. You say maybe. Pike returns for a visit and claps you on the back hard enough to knock the wind out of you. He says you smell like a library and it suits you. He's working now too, shoe repairs. Says he still talks in his sleep sometimes. Says he's got an extra blanket if you ever need it. You don't, but you thank him anyway. That night you give him a printed page with his name on it. He stares at it for a long time, doesn't speak, just folds it once and tucks it into his coat like it's worth something. You think maybe it is. There's still soot in the corners of the city. You see it sometimes, in doorways, in the faces of boys you don't know but still recognise. You walk past a work crew one morning and spot a sweep brush tied with string. The boy carrying it is no older than Henry. He doesn't look up. You stop for half a second, then you keep walking. You think about going back, saying something, giving him the name of the home, or a crust, or a name to ask for. But you don't. Not yet. You still don't know if you've earned that voice, but the next time maybe you will. You tuck the idea away like a pebble in your pocket. Small, heavy, waiting. Your stories change. They're still about flu sometimes, still about soot. But there's more now. Gardens, ink, cats who sleep on warm bricks. You write them at the shop during breaks, tucking pages into your apron when the foreman walks past. You show one to the printer. He squints. Says you've got something. Says maybe you should try the newspaper next. You don't know what to say, not at first. The idea of your words landing in someone else's hands makes your stomach twist. But you fold the story anyway, tuck it into an envelope, walk it to the post office with your hand shaking. You don't tell anyone, just wait. 2 weeks later, the paper arrives folded in thirds. You see your name near the bottom. The story's been trimmed, but the bones are there. Your words, your breath on the page. Henry whoops so loud he knocks over a chair. Alfie tapes the clipping above his bed. The woman just smiles and pours you more tea. You hold the paper in your hands for hours. Fold, unfold, trace the letters. You can still feel soot under your nails, even if it's not there. But now the ink stays. The words don't smear, they stick. Summer returns, brighter than before. You spend more days at the shop setting type, inking rollers, stacking pages still warm from the press. The smell of ink is part of you now, sweet, sharp, clean in a way that soot never was. The printer trusts you with bigger jobs, full pages, headlines. Sometimes he lets you lock the door, says you've got the hands for it, that you know how to handle words like tools, not toys. You ask if you can bring Henry along. He shrugs, says if the boy doesn't break anything, he can sweep up. Henry comes the next day with a comb in his hair and shoes that almost match. He sweeps, carefully, then asks questions, then stays quiet when he's supposed to. When you walk him home, he says it smells better than he thought it would. You nod. He looks up at you and says, "You smell like stories." You don't know what to say to that, so you just smile. Alfie grows taller. Still quiet, still drawing. His lines sharpen. Chimneys give way to gardens, cats give way to boys running. He pins them up beside his bed and covers the cracks in the wall. He says the home feels more his now, like the walls don't press in the same way. The woman gives him coloured pencils, says she found them at market. He treats them like treasure. The first one he uses is yellow, bright, smudgy, the same colour as the crocuses that came up last spring. He draws a sun with a face and puts it in the hallway. Everyone says it makes the room warmer. No one moves it. You help him build a frame for it out of scrap wood and twine. He thanks you without words, just a nod. You understand. You start saving your money. Slowly. A few coins here, a few more there. You don't know what for yet. Not exactly. Maybe a coat, maybe books, maybe train fare. Not away, but forward. A place where chimneys aren't taller than your dreams. You think about writing a longer story, one that tells it all. The dark, the climb, the crack of ribs and scrape of nails. But also the scarf, the garden, the boy who didn't cough blood this winter. You fill a dozen pages before you stop, not because you're finished, because you're not sure where to go next. You tuck the story under your mattress. It's not ready for the world, but it's real, and it's yours. One morning, you walk past a chimney sweep crew. 4 boys, 2 barely walking, 1 already coughing. The master glares at you. You stare back, not with fear, just a flat look. Like a mirror he doesn't want to see. You kneel beside the smallest boy, say a name and an address. Tell him they've got soup. Beds. A place where the only thing black is the ink on the page. The master swings his cane. Misses. You're already gone. The boy stares after you. Doesn't smile. Doesn't wave. But you saw it. His fingers twitch. Like maybe he wrote your words on the inside of his hand. That night, you sit on the steps and tell Henry the whole story. Not just the climbs or the cuts, everything. Hob, the cracked flue, the day you thought you wouldn't come out. Benji, Pike, the letter. Henry doesn't interrupt, he just listens. When you finish, he says, "I thought I was the only one." You shake your head. Say you did too. He nods like that means everything. Maybe it does. The 2 of you sit until the moon rises. And when you finally go inside, the house feels bigger somehow. Like there's more room for breathing, more space between the walls. Alfie left a sketch on your pillow. A chimney with flowers growing out of the top. You pin it above your bed. At breakfast, the woman reads the paper out loud. A story about new laws, about workhouses being watched, about sweep masters fined for hiring boys under 10. You don't smile, not quite, but you chew your bread slower. Henry elbows you. Says maybe one of your words got that law written. You shrug, but you write the date down in your notebook, then underline it, then close the book and slide it under your mattress. You've got new stories to tell, and maybe now the world is finally ready to listen. The leaves turn gold again, then brown, then gone. Another year circles back around like a chimney spiral, tight, dark, then open at the top. You're taller now, shoulders are broader. The sleeves that once hung past your fingers are tight at the cuffs. You're stronger too, not just in your back or legs, but somewhere else. The kind of strength that doesn't crack when someone shouts. The kind that lets you pause, breathe, speak. The printer says you work like you've got ink in your bones. You take it as a compliment. He offers you longer hours, more pay. You take it. Not for the money, for the quiet, for the hum of the press, for the letters that stay where you put them. One evening, as you're locking up, you see a boy sitting outside the bakery next door. His shirt's too thin, his eyes too tired, but he's watching the door like he's working up the courage to knock. You sit beside him, ask if he's hungry. He upward nods. You give him half your loaf. You don't ask where he's from, you don't need to. He asks what you do. You say you make pages. He doesn't understand, not yet, but he nods anyway. You tell him about the home, the pump in the back, the porridge, the woman who doesn't yell. He says nothing. Just eats. When he finishes, he licks the crust dust from his fingers and runs off into the dark. You don't chase him. You just write the moment down when you get home, in the margin of a half-filled page, in case he comes back. Alfie finishes a full sketchbook. He hands it to the woman, tie with string. On the front is a picture of a chimney boy with ink on his hands. You. She doesn't open it right away, just holds it to her chest and says, "This is what survival looks like." You're not sure what to say to that, so you just nod. Henry's reading now, slowly, carefully. He mouths the words as he moves his finger across the page. When he stumbles, you help, 1 syllable at a time. You write short stories just for him, about cats that speak in riddles, about a bakery that serves dreams in its dough. He draws pictures in the margins. He colours the sky blue. You'd forgotten the sky could be blue. You only ever saw it grey. There's a fire in the city one night. Not near you, but close enough to see the smoke. You climb the stairs and sit on the rooftop. Watch it curl up into the sky. The others join you. No one speaks for a while. You all just sit, backs against the chimney that hasn't seen smoke in years. Eventually, Henry asks if you think the fire hurts the bricks. You say maybe, but they don't break, not right away. Alfie says sometimes things burn down and grow back. Better. You say nothing, just keep watching. The flames die down before dawn. You all fall asleep sitting up, heads on each other's shoulders like a tangle of roots. Winter returns softer this time. Not warm, but not cruel. You find an old flue in the garden and fill it with soil. Alfie plants wildflowers. You plant beans. Henry writes the word home on the side in charcoal. The woman doesn't paint over it. Spring brings bees. You write a poem about one landing on your hand. It doesn't sting. It just rests there like it belongs. The paper it's written on smells like rosemary and ink. You tuck it in your box beside the first page you ever printed. The one with your name crooked, but clear. You don't reread it often, but you like knowing it's there. The day you turn 15, the woman makes a stew that doesn't come from scraps. Real carrots, real herbs. The bread is warm, the butter is soft. She doesn't say happy birthday. She just puts another ladle in your bowl and pats your shoulder. Alfie gives you a sketch of a tower made of books. Henry draws a chimney turned upside down with roots hanging from the crown. You laugh, not loud but real. You pass them each a printed card with their names spelled right. You say thank you, not for the gifts, for being here, for staying. You don't blow out candles, but when you close your eyes that night, you still make a wish. The home changes with you. New boys come, some loud, some silent, some too small for the clothes they wear. You show them how to wash their hands so the soap stings less. Alfie draws their names in block letters and pins them to the wall. Henry reads aloud to them every Sunday, even when he stumbles. Especially then. You teach them how to sit still in the dark without flinching, how to fold blankets so the corners line up, how to carry fear without letting it spill. Some stay, some don't, some vanish after a week and leave nothing behind but a single boot or a half-eaten crust. You remember all their names anyway. You write them down in the back of your notebook. Just a list, just in case. Your third story gets printed. This one about a boy who collects lost buttons and builds a coat that tells the future. It runs next to a piece about the changing labour laws. The paper gives you a little box with your name in bold at the bottom. It looks too loud, too proud, but you keep it. Alfie cuts it out and frames it with scraps of wood. Henry starts telling people he knows someone famous. You roll your eyes, but secretly you like the sound of it. At the shop, the printer gives you a better apron and lets you lock up by yourself. You sweep the floor with care. You wash the trays until the ink no longer bleeds onto your fingertips. You no longer flinch at the smell of ash. Only ink now, only paper. Sometimes you still dream of soot. Not fear, just memory. It clings like a shadow. Some nights you wake coughing, throat dry, lungs stiff. But it passes. You sip water. You breathe. You write a few lines to clear it from your head. Words like, oh, you survived the dark, or no chimney owns you now. You add those lines to the margins of stories. You don't show them to anyone. Not yet. They're for you. A reminder that you were down there, that you came out, that the smoke didn't win. Pike visits again in the spring. He's taller, broader, a little slower in his walk, but his eyes are the same. He brings a wrapped parcel. Boots, real ones. Sturdy, his own hands made them. He says they're for a Henry, who's nearly grown out of his third pair in 2 seasons. Henry puts them on and runs through the yard like he's testing wings. Pike sits with you by the garden bed, says he saw your name in the paper, says he knew you'd do something like that. You ask what he's doing next. He shrugs, says maybe he'll open a shop, maybe he'll take in a boy or 2 himself. He leans back and says, "Can you imagine? Us in charge." You both laugh, but not because it's funny, because maybe it isn't impossible anymore. One of the boys, new, small red hair, asks what chimneys were like. You pause, not because you don't know, but because you do. Too well. You sit him down, tell him the truth, how they were tight, cold, loud in your bones, how the brick could scrape the skin right off you if you breathed wrong. But you also tell him about what came after, about the sky, the ink, the page, the soup with time in it. The boy stares at you with wide eyes and says, "I'd rather be a gardener." You nod, say that's a good plan. Alfie hears and starts sketching him with a watering can twice his size. That night you pass the memory box again. It's heavier now. More boys, more names, more tokens. You don't open it, but you touch the lid. Just once, just to remember. You sit outside as dusk falls and write your next piece by candlelight. This one isn't about soot, or ladders, or chimneys. It's about a robin building, a nest in a flue that hasn't been used in years. About how the world finds ways to repurpose even what once held fought. You write slow, line by line. Then you fold the paper and tuck it into your jacket, ready for morning. The paper prints your robin story. Page 4 tucked between the market listings and a note about school openings. You think it'll get skipped over. But 2 days later, a woman walks into the shop asking if she can buy a broadside of it. Says it reminded her of something she lost long ago. You print it for her yourself, set each line slow and ink each letter clean. When she holds it, she touches the edge like it's made of glass. She pays with a coin and a wrapped bun. You eat it by the window watching the street flicker with late afternoon shadows. The printer comes over, nods at the paper and says, "Your words don't just live in you anymore." You fold that moment into your chest and carry it home. One night, Henry climbs into your bed without asking. Just lies there, arms folded tight across his chest. Not crying, not speaking. You don't ask why. You just lie beside him until his breathing evens out. In the morning, he's gone before you wake, but your scarf is folded neatly at the foot of the bed, and on the table is a new drawing. A bird flying out of a chimney crown, its wings made of paper. You tuck it into your notebook. That afternoon, he runs faster than ever across the yard. The boots Pike gave him hold up. You think of Benji again, and somewhere between memory and breath, you whisper thanks. For him, for Henry, for every boy who didn't get stuck. Years slip forward like snow off a roof, slow, quiet, and then all at once, your body changes. Stronger now, leaner. You wear a proper coat, your boots don't pinch. Your fingernails are clean more often than not. The soot is still there, in your lungs, your memory, but less sharp. You take on more at the shop. You write stories, typeset, broad sheets, even proofread headlines. The printer calls you the spine of the place, though you laugh, then realise maybe you are. You keep writing, you never stop, or the notebook under your mattress fills, and then another. The boys ask to read them. You let them, carefully. One page at a time, you tell them the truth. But not just as dark. You make sure they get to the part where the ladder becomes a staircase, where the flue cracks open and lets the light in. Eventually, Alfie's drawings end up in the newspaper beside your stories. One week it's a boy planting a garden in a chimney stack. Another week it's a pair of hands holding a city made of type. People write in, they post the pages on bakery walls, the print shop gets busier. You train Henry on the roller press. He curses like you used to, he sweats like you used to. You don't say much, just nod when he gets it right. He brings you a cup of tea one morning and says, "I never thought I'd grow into a clean boy." You smile, tell him the soot washes off eventually. Not all at once, not easy, but it does. You don't tell him it still shows up in dreams. He'll learn that on his own. One afternoon you return to the old shed. It's still there, smaller now, leaning, half swallowed by the weeds. You walk inside, the dust doesn't choke you. The beams haven't collapsed. You run a finger across the wall and find the notch you carved your first winter there. 7 in all. You trace them, count them twice. Then you step back, open your notebook and tear out a single page, the one with your name printed neat across the top. You fold it, press it between 2 bricks and leave it there. Not because you need to, because you want to. A marker, a memory, a final step down the ladder. You walk away without looking back. You return home to the sound of Henry laughing in the yard and Alfie calling for paper. The shop bell rings in the distance. You sit on the front step, notebook in hand, and write the last line of your new story. It says, "Some boys were born in the soot, but not all stayed there." You underline it. Twice. The wind lifts your hair, the ink dries fast. You close the book and breathe deep. No flue above you. No bricks pressing in. Just sky. Just breath. Just the long, steady promise of everything ahead.